Coming up on Network Africa, Sudan files a case against the United Arab Emirates over the country's support for paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces. The United Nations says women and girls' rights are facing unprecedented growing threats worldwide ahead of International Women's Day, March 8th. Plus, Mali suspends artisanal gold mining permits for foreign companies after a series of accidents. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. Sudan has brought a case before the International Court of Justice accusing the United Arab Emirates of violating the Genocide Convention by providing arms and funding to the Rapid Support Forces, the rebel paramilitary group involved in Sudan's ongoing conflict. According to court documents, Sudan's complaint submitted on Wednesday alleges that the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, and their allied militias have committed acts including genocide, murder, rape, forced displacement, trespassing, vandalism, and human rights violations against the Masalit community. In response, the UAE characterized the filing as a cynical publicity stunt, claiming it is intended to shift focus away from the Sudanese armed forces' involvement in the ongoing atrocities affecting the nation and its citizens. The country says it plans to request the case's dismissal. Both the RSF and the Sudanese military have faced accusations of committing abuses during the nearly two-year conflict that began in 2023, following escalating tensions between the military and paramilitary forces in Khartoum, which has then spread to other areas. In the meantime, the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has met with the Central African Republic's President Faustin Archange Touadera. President Touadera was in Abu Dhabi to discuss ways of strengthening bilateral relations and expanding cooperation between both countries, particularly in trade and investment sectors, as well as renewable energy, infrastructure, and other key development areas. During their meeting at the Qasr Al Shaid, President Touadera congratulated the UAE's president on the occasion of Ramadan and wished the UAE and its people continued progress and prosperity, while President Al Nahyan reaffirmed the UAE's commitment to fostering development partnerships with African nations to promote a more prosperous and sustainable future. Well, both leaders have expressed their shared commitment to advancing cooperation between the UAE and the Central African Republic in a way that benefits both countries. Ahead of International Women's Day, March the 8th, a new report launched by UNICEF, the UN's children agency, Plan International, and UN Women reviews how adolescent girls, their lives, how it has changed in the last 30 years since the Beijing Platform for Action was endorsed by 189 governments in 1995. The report says women and girls' rights are facing unprecedented growing threats worldwide, from higher levels of discrimination to weaker legal protections and also less funding for programs and institutions that support and protect women. The report is called Women's Rights in Review 30 Years After Beijing, published ahead of the UN 50th International Women's Day on March the 8th. It also shows that in 2024, nearly a quarter of governments worldwide reported a backlash on women's rights.
The good news story is that the world today is actually more equal for women and girls than ever before. And that tells us that progress is in fact possible. And yet the report will also show, with its data and evidence, that this progress has been too slow, too fragile, too uneven, And most importantly, that this progress is not guaranteed. The world is, in fact, experiencing a growing backlash against gender equality and women's rights. Anti-rights actors who are increasingly well-funded and coordinated are actively undermining long-standing consensus on key women's rights issues. And where they cannot roll back legal or policy gains altogether, they seek to either block or slow down their implementation. And so right now, a girl who was born today will wait until she is nearly 40 years old, until she sees equality in parliaments everywhere, parity in parliaments. She will be 68 years old until child early and forced marriage is ended around the world. And she will not even live to see the day by which extreme poverty, which has a female face, is eradicated from this earth. She'll be 137 years old by the time the feminization of poverty ends.
Over the past 30 years.
Back here in Nigeria, the Senate has suspended the senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha for 6 months, effective from Thursday, March 6, 2025. This follows the submission and consideration of a report by the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Code of Conduct, which cited her for total violation of the Senate rules. The suspension bars her from accessing her office, the National Assembly premises, while her salary is withdrawn during the suspension period. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezioke, reports.
The dust had hardly settled from the dramatic scenes recorded in the National Assembly on Wednesday, when it seemed there was a repeat performance by Thursday, when the Senate President arrived for plenary. Once again, Senator Natasha refused to stand, defying Senate protocol for presiding officers. At the start of plenary, tensions rose slightly as the Senate Chief Whip called out the Kogi lawmaker for repeatedly violating the rules.
I have to send one of the sergeant-at-arms to her that her conduct is in breach of this rule. So I am urging the indulgence of Senator Natasha to please observe our rules.
Armed with another document, the Kogi lawmaker seeks permission to resubmit a petition alleging sexual harassment against the Senate president, which was dismissed on Wednesday for procedural irregularities. This time it is signed by her constituents.
And the petition is against the president of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, for sexual harassment, abuses of office, and malicious obstruction of legislative functions of distinguished Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. So with your kind permission, may I please lay this petition?
Is there any legal impediment? Please proceed to lay the petition.
Shortly after, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions submit its report detailing its investigation into Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's unparliamentary conduct during plenary on January 20, among others.
That all efforts to get Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to move to her newly assigned seat fell on deaf ears as Senator Natasha Uduaghan-Akpoti continued shouting on top of her voice and pointing her fingers at the presiding officer.
Recommendations contained in the no less than 6-page report read by the chairman include a 6-month suspension. Lawmakers immediately launch a debate into the findings.
If you follow the sequence, issues of discrimination cannot be proven. It is actually the opposite. That under your leadership, distinguished Senator Mrs. Uduaghan can claim victimization based on facts.
Today, we are faced with this situation that we all know impinges on the integrity of this institution. We want to ask if it is convenient for the Senate and Mr. President that the 6 months punishment for suspension be reduced to 3 months.
My advice and appeal to her
will be that she spends her period of suspension to read and learn our rules very well.
Prayer one, that the Senate do suspend Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months for a total violation of the Senate Standing Rules 2023 as amended for bringing the presiding officer and the entire Nigerian Senate in general to public opprobrium. With effect from 6th day of March 2025 from all legislative activities forward. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Contrary to the majority decision, the Senate President rules in favor of leniency if a written apology emerges.
Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan shall submit a written apology to the Senate before any reconsideration by the Nigerian Senate. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. For the duration of her suspension, she cannot come or be seen within the vicinity of the National Assembly.
Following the ruling, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan is escorted out of the chamber by the Sergeant-at-Arms, but not without a reaction, breaching one more rule before her exit.
This injustice will not be sustained. The pursuit for justice.
A total number of 30 members of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions endorsed the recommendations that has led to the eventual suspension of Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, who was sworn in 16 months ago. This would be the third suspension under the 10th Assembly. It is now unclear whether the senator would tender a written apology to her colleagues or not. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
To environmental stories now. While Nigeria and the Lagos state government have indicated interest to host the United Nations Climate Change Conference of the parties tagged COP32, Executive Secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, Simon Steele, says it is important to note that there is no agreement yet as to who to host the conference in the year 2027. Mr. Steele, in his words at a press conference in Lagos, says what is a fact is that it will be on the continent of Africa. He also spoke about the quality of the climate plans expected from countries and the impact of America's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement.
Certainly welcome Nigeria's interest. There is a process, and what we will do is encourage Nigeria within its constituency group to circulate. It is possible there will be other countries that are expressing interest, and the process allows that group to actually make that decision. Regarding NDCs, we've received 16 NDCs, and some of those from major countries. But more are still to come. What is important? Yes, the timeliness of submissions, absolutely critical to give the Secretariat time to synthesize all of those. But what is more important is the quality of those NDCs. And having that additional time, so Nigeria, first of all, and the DG will be able to speak to progress made. But the plan is by June, that Nigeria's NDC will be submitted. We'll get indications from many other countries of their intent, and work that is progressing is concluding that we will receive a significant number of NDCs that will give us an accurate picture of precisely where the world is. They will be coming in over the course of the next few months. So what is absolutely essential is the quality and the time spent to get these NDCs right. This is a third generation of NDC, third time countries are doing this. And there are many lessons to be learned from the previous generations. And part of the focus and what should make this round different is the focus on the opportunities, these being economic transformation plans for countries, articulating not only needs, but also those areas of investment and opportunity to attract the financing that's required to make these implementable. And then coming back to the question about a party's withdrawal, again, there are close to 200 parties that are a party, 195 that are party to the Paris Agreement, 198 to the Convention.
We'll take a break now on Network Africa. Still ahead. A Kenyan woman is promoting solar ovens to tackle deforestation in her community. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. As part of efforts to align with the federal government of Nigeria's initiative to move away from premium motor spirit to compressed natural gas, CNG, the Lagos State government has commenced training for vehicle inspection and safety commission officers for safety reasons. Speaking at the opening session of the training held at Ikeja, the Director General of the Lagos State Safety Commission, Mr. Lanre Mojola, says the adoption of CNG as an alternative fuel is not just an energy solution, but a declaration by the Babajide Sanwo-Olu's administration to embrace cleaner, safer, and more affordable energy systems.
About 5 months ago, the federal government commenced the free distribution of compressed natural gas conversion kits to transporters in Lagos through the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative in order to reduce the reliance on premium motor spirit. In a bid to ensure the safety of users of CNG vehicles, the Lagos State Safety Commission is holding a theoretical training exercise for Vehicle Inspection and Safety Commission officers.
We're training them on safety. It's a whole week's program. Today, we're focused on theory side of CNG safety, understanding what could cause problems with a CNG setup. Tomorrow and days after tomorrow, we're going to be doing practical sessions where they would literally be trying up different types of cars, trucks, and they will be certifying that process. This is important because we are all aware of following the move to cleaner and greener fuels by Mr. President when he announced the presidential initiative on compressed natural gas. There's now a need more than ever for us to start to focus on the safety.
The State Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Relations, says safety is key and should not be compromised.
Everything about safety in Lagos State rests squarely on the shoulder of the Safety Commission. Now, you will know that the introduction of the new system, which is novel to us in Nigeria here, we have all been used to fueling, either petrol or gas, but now we know that we are going, using natural gas to fuel vehicle. And of course, despite the advantages that are numerous with the introduction, there are also some challenges that we think that we should tell our people. And it's in respect of those challenges, the dangers, and some of those things that could happen with the improper usage of CNG that we have organized this.
And for those who are still skeptical about the use of CNG, some of the stakeholders allay the fears of citizens.
The big fear for everybody who wants to use it is that the gas cylinder will explode. Now I've explained to you that it is not going to explode. It will never explode. It has never exploded. Remember, we have been doing conversion since 2017. This is about 5-6 years, and none has exploded. So it will not. So Lagosians should hurry now, go to the nearest conversion center and have their cars converted.
The Southwest Presidential CNG Initiative Expansion Coordinator emphasized that the promotion of CNG is to harness the country's vast natural gas reserves.
The trainees, I believe, should leave here, after the 3-day, training process, should actually leave here with a better understanding about CNG and safety regarding CNG and, things to look out for in terms of loopholes and all.
The government also used the opportunity to encourage motorists to embrace the CNG initiative for a cleaner, healthier, and safer environment devoid of air pollution.
In neighboring Mali, the military government is suspending licenses for foreign artisanal gold mining companies after a series of fatal accidents in the West African country. And Mali is one of Africa's top 3 gold producers. General Assimi Goïta, president of Mali's transitional government, ordered the suspension of artisanal mining permits granted to foreigners following a Council of Ministers meeting. Now, the move comes in response to accidents at mining sites that have claimed the lives of dozens of people, most recently in January in the Kulikoro region in the south of the country, and also in February in the Kayes region in the southwest of the country. Artisanal gold mining is estimated to produce around 30 tons of gold a year and represents 6% of Mali's annual gold production. The Council of Ministers statement says measures would be taken to facilitate the recovery of equipment used in gold panning and its addition to the national patrimony. The International Monetary Fund says the Executive Board will be discussing assistance to Egypt next week, March the 10th. Part of the assistance to Egypt, according to Julie Kozak, that's the IMF Director of Communications, could take the form of a resilience and sustainability facility designed in part to help countries tackling climate change. Although it is not confirmed how large this will be, Ms. Kozak says it would have economic reforms at its core.
So on March 10th, our executive board will be discussing Egypt's Article 4 consultation and the 4th review under the EFF. It will also be discussing at the same time Egypt's request for an RSF, the Resilience and Sustainability Facility. Subject to completion by the executive board, Egypt, the authorities would have access to $1.2 billion under the EFF, so under the EFF program. And then in addition, subject again to approval by our executive board, the RSF would provide, the size of the RSF would be about $1.3 billion US. Regarding the RSF, like all of the IMF programs, the RSF is also delivered in tranches. So it wouldn't be, it's not one lump sum up front. It is a phased program where tranches are dispersed on the basis of conditions being met.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. In this Women's Month, we're highlighting African women in their special fields. Making use of the constant sunlight, a Kenyan innovator is promoting solar ovens in tackling deforestation. She is offering this cheaper alternative for rural households to be able to prepare healthy meals to nurture the body.
Caroline Olang is cooking in her home with a homemade solar oven, a compact, insulated box that traps the heat without smoke or flames. Using simple materials like timber, aluminum foil, and repurposed blankets is leading a quiet but impactful shift in how our community cooks with the solar ovens that harnesses sunlight to prepare meals.
A solar-powered oven is simply a device that makes us stop using firewood, charcoal, and fossil fuel. Instead, we use solar, that is renewable energy, and we use it for cooking.
The oven helps reduce reliance on firewood and offers a cleaner alternative for rural households in Raire Village, Migori County in southwestern Kenya. This smoke-free device diminishes exposure to harmful smoke from traditional cooking sources, improving indoor air quality. According to the inventor, the oven, made from freely available materials in our village, reflects sunlight into a cooking chamber, reaching temperatures of 120 to 180 degrees Celsius. On clear days, it bakes cakes in 20 minutes or simmers stews in 2 to 3 hours.
On a very hot day, like of late it's been unusually hot, your cake will bake within 20 minutes. Yeah. And on ordinary days, maybe it will take like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And the beauty of it all is that your food never burns. It may slightly overcook, but it doesn't burn.
With firewood difficult to access, charcoal expensive, and electricity not a viable option, Olang views the solar oven as a beacon of hope.
Actually, I was using the charcoal and the firewood. Now, I became to realize that when we are using a lot of firewood, we are damage our trees, and then a drought will come. Now we have realized that we are not supposed to cut the trees around. Now I'm using little firewood, but I'm using another method for solar cooker that is helping a lot. Before, I was using like 5,000 Kenya shillings for buying firewood and buying also charcoal. But this moment, since I got this one, now I'm using like 1,000.
There's no smoke, it doesn't release carbon dioxide, so it's safe. So people don't develop respiratory problems while using the solar oven. The only disadvantage the solar oven has is that you can't use it when it's cool, when the sun is not there, or when it's rainy. But because we are in sunny Africa, I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages.
Since then, Olang has trained hundreds of women in her village and facilitated a switch for about 300 out of 550 neighbors from non-renewable energy sources to solar ovens, significantly reducing environmental threats.
And that's it on the program for today and for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde. Have a lovely weekend.